How's that?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, apologies for that. Thanks very much for everyone for tuning in. It's nice to, I guess, round out the third West Australian presentation for the session. It's as Tim mentioned, very recent discovery and a very exciting one for the company and its shareholders. So I'll give you a quick introduction to the company first, if I could jump forward. Our normal forward-looking statements there available on our website. So for those who are not familiar with Chalice, we're a fairly unique company based in West Perth. We've got a proven ability to get into projects, make discoveries, really take them up the value curve, and then also divest them in a disciplined manner. We've generated a lot of value over the last decade doing that, and we've returned a good chunk of that capital directly to our shareholders. We've got a very sizable treasury. It's a order of magnitude larger than most explorers. We currently have $55 million in working capital and investments, and that's really after we closed a $30 million financing a couple of weeks ago. And that really gives us the ability to take on large exploration plays. So as it says there, we've got 3 district scale precious, as well as what Tim referred to, the nickel projects in Australia. And run by a very well-credentialed team here in Perth. The next slide gives you an overview of where our premier, our key projects are. As I mentioned, 3 key projects. The one I'll focus on today is the recent discovery at Julimar. It's a new greenfield discovery. It was high-grade intercept in the very first drill hole. It's a completely new area, completely unexplored, and it's only just about an hour's drive out of Perth. The other 2 projects we are still working on and still very excited by. We've got 2 rigs running at the moment on our gold property in Victoria. We're one of the largest holders of exploration tenure in Victoria. But unfortunately, this session today is about nickel, so that's where I'll focus on today with Julimar. So on the next slide, you'll see our corporate basics. There's a tight capital structure and a very strong financial position, as I said. Our chairman is been in the company since the IPO, owns 12% of the company, as well as one of the largest funds in the world, Franklin Templeton, based in San Francisco, also been there very long term. We've recently welcomed a number of very large institutions to the register as well, which now account for almost 20% of the register. As it says there, at about $1 a share, we're approximately 300 million market cap company, cash of about $48 million. As you can see with the price history there, it's been a transformational quarter for Chalice, going from somewhere around the 50 million market cap range now to over 300. So you can see there that was really triggered by this exciting discovery we made just outside of Perth at Julimar. So on the next slide, this is the project, as I said, in Western Australia. As I said, high-grade nickel, copper, as well as PGEs were intersected at our first drill hole. And that's not a common, something you see very frequently in the industry. It's looking like a very exciting, remarkable new discovery that we've made. I mentioned that it's an hour's drive out of the city here. That means we have exceptional access to infrastructure, including sort of port and high voltage power, highways, etc., very close to the project. So it's a very well located project for a potential base metals and precious metals mine. We were drawn to this area, as it shows there on the map on the left hand side. We were drawn to this quite prominent magnetic feature, which we've now established is a layered mafic, ultramafic intrusive complex. So not dissimilar to the Nova discovery by Sirius in 2012. The intrusive is largely undercover though, so that meant it was very poorly explored. Essentially, there hadn't been a drill hole targeting those metals before in the area. So we completed some early stage reconnaissance work last year over the southern part of that intrusive feature, and we've named that discovery Gonville. And our first drill hole, as it says, only 3 months ago now, discovered a wide, shallow zone of high-grade mineralisation. And that really triggered us to look regionally and subsequently put in about 20 new exploration license applications. I guess given the region hasn't been known as a nickel copper PGE province, it was largely vacant ground, so we acquired a significant foothold on the province, and now our license holding is somewhere around the 2,000 square kilometres once you include those license applications. On the next slide gives you a bit of a summary of the results we've seen to date. We've been drilling aggressively after our discovery hole in March. The discovery hole was the JRC 001 that intersected 33 metres at 6.5 grams palladium, 0.7 grams platinum, 1.6% nickel, 0.7% copper, and 0.1% cobalt. And even more astonishing is the fact that that intercept was made at 44 metres downhole. So typically you don't see massive sulfide like that intersected this shallow. And I guess it immediately emphasised that this is, we're looking at something very special in terms of this discovery. We did make that discovery off the back of the moving loop EM work that we'd done in 2019, and we'd established that there is not just a single EM target in this intrusive body. So what you're looking at there on the left-hand side of the page is the magnetic signature of the intrusive, and you can see that there are a number of other EM plates in the yellow all across the intrusive, and that strikes over about 1.5 kilometres and is about 700 metres wide. So we went and drilled an RC hole into each one of those targets. We subsequently discovered a new wide, again, shallow high-grade zone just to the east of the discovery. And what we noticed when we saw the assays back from all these RC holes was that essentially every single drill hole that we've drilled into the intrusion has hit elevated PGEs. So we've got getting intercepts as shown up there, like over 100 metres of sort of plus half gram per tonne PGEs, which we consider very significant and speaks to, I guess, the degree of mineralisation in this intrusive body. It's a well mineralised intrusion, and obviously we believe there's a lot more to be found. So it was a significant discovery. We've drilled now approximately 19 holes, about 4,500 metres, and really this is just the beginning of what could be a very significant new metal province for the state of Western Australia. So on the next slide gives you a bit of a zoom in of some of the work we're doing in the high grade areas. We drilled our second diamond hole down dip of the discovery zone, really to confirm its orientation. And what we noticed in that discovery zone, some quite spectacular and quite consistent high-grade mineralisation. So again, 75 metres at 6.2 grams palladium, 1.7 grams platinum, 1.7% nickel, 0.7 copper, 0.1% cobalt, again from 35 metres or so. It's quite exceptional high-grade material. In the east zone there, we've got a 40-metre wide interval of moderate grade mineralisation. And we now believe that we have essentially at least 200 metres of strike extent to that zone after we drilled our third diamond hole, JD 003, 200 metres to the north. And that intersected a 17-metre wide matrix sulfide zone at 191 metres. And as yet, we haven't received assays for that hole. But not only that, that hole drilled essentially to the base of the intrusion and was still in mineralisation down at 460 metres. So what we think we have is a very large disseminated mineralisation footprint. We've obviously got these zones of high grade which need a lot more drilling to fully understand, but we have some exceptional, I guess, it is an exceptional starting point for the early stages of a discovery. And I'll point out that at the southern end of that figure there, you're looking at a 2D representation of the EM, and you'll see there's an as yet untested moving loop EM target approximately 200 metres to the south, which is our high priority target at the moment to find more high grade. On the next slide, you'll see a section of those drill holes into the discovery as well as the east zone. You can see some of the well-preserved sulfides on the right-hand side there, as well as the width, the quite exceptional width and shallow nature of this high-grade mineralisation. And as I said, we believe these zones are plunging gently to the north, and we believe we've intersected that east zone, again, 200 meters away to the north. So a lot more drilling to be done, obviously, but look, with this zone, we believe is a prolific zone and currently remains wide open, and really there's a lot of drilling ahead of us to define it. On the next slide, gives you a sense of the scale of this intrusive body. As I said, every single drill hole out of the 20 or so drill holes we've completed thus far, we have hit mineralization in all those holes. The geometry of the intrusive body is given here on the left hand side, looking above from down on the intrusive. You can see it's about 1.6 kilometers in length, about 700 meters wide, and then looking at a side on view, you can see it's approximately, or modeled to be, 650 meters deep. And it's an irregular sort of shaped body that's a very favorable geometry and when you compare it to other world-class nickel sulfide deposits globally, you can see some real analogues between this and those deposits. So our most favoured analogues are listed there: Jinchuan in China, which is the second largest nickel sulfide deposit in the world, and Kabanga in Tanzania, which is another high-grade nickel copper sulfide deposit in Tanzania. I guess probably the most exciting part is that not only is this the scale of what we have here at Gonville, very large, that is a very large intrusive body. The next step up, I guess, for us, the next stage is looking further to the north. So we have approximately 24 kilometers of strike length to this complex, which we haven't yet drilled a hole into. And if you go to the next slide, this is a plan view of what I'm talking about there. You can see the Gonville discovery, the quite discrete mag feature at the southern end of our tenure there. And you can see the magnetic sort of snakes to the northeast there, and has some other quite discrete magnetic features along that strike length. We have found that various parties sampled through that state forest area and got anomalous nickel, copper, as well as PGEs along that mag feature, which you have to classify as probably some of the most exciting geochemical anomalies you're likely to ever see, given what we've discovered now at the southern end of the intrusive complex. So we've got some very interesting targets there to do work on. We're working through an approval process at the moment to gain access to that state forest area, which has that green outline on that figure there. So some clearly a very large degree of upside to this project. On the next slide, a bit about PGEs. They're not that commonplace in Australia. There's no primary PGE producing mines in Australia. Their predominant use is in catalytic converters, and palladium in particular is running in a very short supply at the moment. There are very few new discoveries made, palladium discoveries made recently, and that's caused a prolonged deficit in the market, and that's sent the price very, very high. It went over $2,850 US an ounce in February of this year. So it was, if you like, a very well-timed discovery by us to make a palladium discovery in a market like this. On the next slide gives you some of the key points in the discovery. As I've emphasised, it's a completely new province. These types of discoveries, particular palladium-rich discoveries, are very rare. There's only a handful of them around the world, and to find one in Western Australia, a safe jurisdiction, cannot be understated. We've got a significant regional footprint. It's all 100% owned by Chalice, so that means our holders get 100% of the uplift. It's right on Perth's doorstep, which comes with the advantages there logistically, as well as throughout exploration, as well as into mining. And we're on private land as well as state forests, so we have year-round access to complete work. On the next slide, you get a bit of a sense of what that program looks like. We're currently drilling with a diamond rig as well as an RC rig. We've just commenced our phase 2 RC program. We're shortly going to have a second RC rig arrive on site, which should take the rig count to 3. And we anticipate that we'll be drilling on this project for a very long time. Essentially, we've scoped out about a 20,000 metre RC program in phase 2. Diamond drilling will continue to target the high grade zones we know about and continue to extend them and define them. And as well, we've started a very early mineralogy study as well as some test work on metallurgy. So we're looking at all those various ore types that we have there, the disseminated, the massive and the matrix zones, and we're getting starting to get some work done on those as we speak. So as well, we've got 2 rigs drilling in Victoria, as I mentioned. So there is a huge degree of upside built in to the company's activities. The next slide is just a summary, really. As I mentioned, it's a brand new discovery. It has significant scale potential. It's not something that comes around very often. We've got 2 rigs drilling on it at the moment. We're about to accept a 3rd rig, as I said. We're also exploring Victoria. We've got a 4 kilometre long greenfield gold target there. It's near Fosterville, a world-class gold mine. And we have an exceptional balance sheet to be able to do what we want to do on our projects. And I guess the team behind Chalice has shown that we've been able to do this time and time again. So that's really our selling points. And I think that summarises the company well and the investment opportunity for those looking for a new opportunity in the market.
Thanks, Alex. I mean, that is an incredible story. Moving from a market cap of 30 million to 300, and it seems like you're continuing to drill in different directions. I mean, when do you stop that exploration and that drilling, and when do you kind of move to the next stage?
Yeah, so as part of us raising $30 million, Tim, we laid out a plan as to what we thought we needed to get the project to an advanced scoping study level. And that was a roadmap really over the next sort of circa 2 years. We're looking at somewhere around sort of $15 million worth of drilling, both RC and diamond, to get us to a point where we've got a largely indicated resource. That's our near-term goal. So we'll be drilling, I would say, for at least sort of a year, 18 months, continuously on this project. And then we'll be looking to, progress mining studies as soon as we can. And that is really the purpose of us, going to the market for $30 million, was that it will be able to essentially fund us through that program, as well as give us the ability to progress the regional activities in the state forest area in parallel.